Welcome to the podcast for the Wildlife Trust of South and West Wales, and it's a bright sunny morning and I'm down by the river with Caris Solman and Richard Facey, and we're here to monitor some birds. So we're going to be catching some birds, ringing them and weighing them and doing all sorts of bits of research in order to understand the nature of the birds on this stretch of river. And we're currently back at Taf Fechan Nature Reserve, and hopefully we'll catch some dippers and maybe some other things as well. Okay then, Caris, what have we got here?
These are the poles that are going to be extended either side of the river, so
Right.
the nets will be strung between those.
Okay, so basically what we're going to be doing this morning then is stringing, are they mist nets that we're using?
Yes.
Right, okay,
Yes.
so they're very fine nets that we put across the river.
Yeah, they're barely visible. They're sort of pocketed nets, so the birds come along, hit the net and then fall into the pockets
Right.
on it. But yeah, they're kind of almost invisible, except if there's a bit of a breeze, when they move you can see them,
Okay.
which is a disadvantage obviously because the birds see them.
I was going to say, so we've got perfect weather conditions here at the moment
Yeah,
then?
there's a bit
No
of a breeze, but hopefully we'll have some luck.
See you on the other side.
Okay, see you on the other side.
So Richard Facey, who's here today, is going to be ringing the birds or weighing the birds?
Ringing them, and before ringing them they'll be weighed, sexed, aged. We just get as much information from them as possible and then put the ring on them and set them loose again.
Okay, brilliant.
So we've just got to set these poles up now. Richard's
Hopefully
waders
Richard
on.
won't fall into the
I
river.
don't have any waders, so I'm not going to go too
No.
far in. I'm going to attach it to this tree.
Okay, so basically this quite long pole with a pointy end. How do you attach it to the tree?
Just find a bit of ivy or even just a heavy rock will do as well. I'm not that great at this. Richard's got lots more practice, so let's see what he thinks of my attempt to set this pole up.
Okay, so if I explain, Caris has got about I'd say it's about 12 foot high black sort of post, I suppose, for lack of a better word, made out of plastic, and what looks like a camping guy line. And she's currently looking for a bit of root in order to tie it round. And then do you just sort of let it anchor, almost pull naturally against itself to be able to...
Yeah, and then when the net's strung up, obviously the it tensions itself.
Right.
So just got to carefully choose your anchors and it should stay upright. But yeah, we'll see.
So basically then you're setting up these nets and what are you hoping then? Some birds will just fly down river?
That's the general plan. It's one of those sort of very simple plans that usually works.
Okay.
Probably not today.
Of course it won't today. They've got to perform.
Yeah, they generally sort of come barrelling down the stream and we catch them as they do that.
Yeah.
And if we're lucky we'll also get a grey wagtail, which is...
Okay, oh lovely, yes, they are beautiful.
But they tend
aren't
to sort of float down the stream, so...
They might notice the nets a little more.
There's been lots of pied wagtails about on this bit as well recently. Yeah,
That would be
which I
quite
haven't seen much of before.
And so these nets are really fine, aren't they?
Yeah, it's sort of a nylon.
Right, oh gosh, they're really, really fine when you touch them. It's almost like, I don't know if anybody ever remembers their nan having hair nets, but that is what it reminds me of. So the birds don't get harmed in this process, do they?
The net's sort of got these 4 or 5 pockets.
Right.
And they just basically land within the pocket and the pocket envelops them. Dippers being dippers, they got quite strong feet, so they sort of grab hold of the net, but it's quite part of your training to be a ringer is learning to take them out of the net without hurting them. So it's harmless.
Okay. And so the next bit of the process after that really energetic bit is just to sit and wait.
Yeah, I've just got to go back over and put that side of the net up and then sit with a cup of coffee and wait for them to turn up.
Of course. Alright then.
We're waiting for dippers once, and a mallard came barreling down the river.
Quite a big
And we
bird
thought, crikey, we're going to get a mallard in there. And it was going so fast, and it was such a sort of bullet shape. It went straight through the net, leaving a sort of small round duck-shaped hole in it. And Richard was quite sad because these nets are quite expensive, and there was this great big hole in the middle of it.
Yeah, rendering it vaguely less useful.
Yeah, so we didn't get a mallard that day, but we have had one before on this stretch here.
Nice.
And lots of other things, like a heron we've had.
It's amazing actually, because herons are such big birds, you wouldn't expect that they would be able to, well, you'd expect them just to be able to get out of this. But
Yeah, it's really effective, this stuff. It's yeah, it's a bit of a job getting him out again though.
yeah,
Quite
yeah.
that dangerous beak
Yeah.
flapping around.
So then, Richard, why are you mad enough to get up at some crazy hour in the morning and get out and cross a river and hang nets?
That's a very good question. What we're doing is part of a scheme that's run for about 100 years in the UK, part of the British Terrestrial Ornithology's ringing scheme. So all the data we collect today will be transferred to them, or add to the bigger picture of what dippers are doing. And being able to come out to a reserve like this and catch birds like dippers and be able to monitor the population just gives us an extra dimension to our knowledge of the birds and the wildlife of Taf Fechan and other wildlife trust reserves.
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose the picture that we've developed over the last 100 years has really shown the changes in the environment, demonstrated wider changes, not just within bird populations.
That's right. And the dipper's coming through a sort of a period of recovery after being knocked back by a lot of sort of water pollution issues,
Of course.
and now is sort of making, in last years has made quite a bit of a comeback, reclaiming quite a lot of territory. And you get as far down as Cardiff,
Right.
and sort of you can see him whizzing past the Millennium Stadium if you're
Yes.
lucky. So it's great to be able to see those changes, and this is part of the monitoring that helps sort of shed light on those changes.
Well, these rivers have changed, enormously in my lifetime. I know
Yeah.
that much because they used to run pretty black, didn't they?
Yeah. I can remember the Taff not looking particularly healthy when I was a kid, so it's good to see it looking a lot better now.
Yeah, and I mean, we were saying the other day when we were out in the reserve, you're actually getting fish coming up, and
Yeah.
they're supporting the other wildlife that's around the area as well. Okay, so when you catch a bird, when something flies into that nest, what happens next?
We'll go and get it out, and then we'll bring it back here, and we'll take some measurements. We'll put, if it's not been ringed, we'll put a small metal ring on it that has a unique number that will identify that bird. So if we catch it again, or anyone else does, we'll be able to know where we caught it, how old it is, and if it's how far it's moved. And hopefully by repeating that year a year, we get an idea of survival as well. And then we'll take some measurements, sort of wing length, and we'll weigh it, which gives us an idea of the sort of health and condition of the bird.
Okay, brilliant. So then we can kind of get a general idea of the wider population from that.
That's right,
How much they're feeding and how much they're... Okay, brilliant. So why do we have to do it this time in the morning?
There's two reasons for that. One, I've got to go to work.
Oh, yeah, small thing.
Yeah, but mainly it's because the early mornings when the birds are most active, so they'll have woken up, they'll have done their territory bits, done their singing, and then they'll start sort of patrol up and down the river feeding and whatnot. So this is a good time to catch them when they'll be very active.
Yeah, it's also a good time for the midges
to
start coming out.
Early mornings and later evenings tend to be the time you go ringing, which is also the time when you get bitten.
Yeah, I can feel it happening right now. Yes. So, how did you get into ringing?
I went through the British Terrestrial Ornithology that sort of administers and coordinates all ringing in the UK. And in those days they gave you he says at the grand old age of 33, they gave you a list of trainers, so you just sort of had to contact them. These days you've got a fancy website you can go through, and managed to get a trainer, and then served effectively an apprenticeship for 2 years before I was allowed out to do things on my own. But I still had to report back to my trainer. Then after about another 2-3 years I was fully qualified and allowed to do things I want to do on my own within certain restrictions on my licence.
Okay, I mean that's the important thing to note, isn't it? You have to do so much training before you're allowed to do this.
You're looking at least 2 years before you can do anything. It's all like mist netting, particularly on your own.
Yeah.
and then again, as I said, you still have to go and answer to your trainer.
Yeah.
I was quite lucky that I had a fairly malevolent trainer, but yeah. Some people can be quite tyrannical, but me, for example.
He's so mean to his trainees.
But I suppose it's a good philosophy to take, isn't it? You don't want to do any harm by what you're doing. In fact, what you're doing is hopefully improving the picture of everything, but you don't want to harm individuals in the process. So obviously you're using mist nets.
Yeah.
Are there other types of trapping?
Yes, you can use. There's various things. A lot of them are sort of a variation on a theme. So there's cannon netting and whoosh netting. I don't do those, but also you can use single nets. Last night I was out catching house martins with my bird ringing partner in crime, James Vaffadis, and we're using sort of effectively tiny mist nets on a wire frame and putting them under house martin nests. But also there's various single catch traps and walk-in traps that we use as well. Right. All depends on the species you're looking at, what you're trying to achieve. Like, if you're trying to target a specific species, or getting lots of individuals, or just a few, and things like that. And also for things like nest boxes, you can use little traps that go inside those to catch adults, or just with the young, just pick them up and ring them. And then, of course, when you start looking at bigger birds like ducks and geese and swans, often it's a case of herding them into a pen or grabbing them by hand, which starts getting entertaining. It starts getting entertaining. Definitely entertaining. You have to understand
the psychology of these birds before
yes,
you can
you do. Especially with ducks, you kind of got to just blank out any idea of catching them. As soon as you start thinking I'm going to catch you, they look at you and they disappear. But if you just sit there thinking, I'm just admiring the lake or the river, and here's some bread and here's some corn, and they sort of mill around and then you grab them.
Yeah.
You have to think about the last second.
It's like fish tickling, but on a whole new scale.
Yeah. They look stupid, but they are quite clever.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's something that's kind of come out a lot in research of late, isn't it? How actually intelligent birds are. And bird brain is such a ridiculous statement.
Definitely. One of the sites where we do a lot of waterfowl, when we first went there, the catching was very, very easy. Right. But over the years, it's diminished as the birds sort of have recognised us. Even with an 8-month sort of gap, because we only ever do it in the winter. Yeah. And they'll sort of have all the spring and summer off, and we turn up thinking, they won't remember us, and the little alarm whacks go off, and they all sort of become very, very wary. Yeah.
We've got the waders on.
Yeah.
Run away.
Those lot again. What we found is you need about sort of a few 4-year-olds. That helps.
Oh, okay.
They sort of
bread.
Come waddling over.
So on a reserve like this, then you'd expect to catch how many birds would you say on an average morning?
It varies. We've had some very, very good mornings where we've had about 5 or 6, and at one point we had 3 in the net at once, which was quite entertaining. That tends to be when there's a lot of young on the wing as well. Some mornings we have nothing, so it can be a bit hit and miss. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get a few today, and maybe a grey wagtail as well. And we have had one kingfisher as well at one point, which was very nice.
Yeah. And grey wagtails is always a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? Because I always think of them as being yellow.
Yes, they seem the colour that does come across more is yellow, but they are. Yeah. Unfortunately, we've got Caris with us, so if Caris is not with us, then we catch kingfishers and sea otters.
Oh, okay.
When she's with us, we don't.
And golden eagles.
Yeah.
Okay, bastards. Fine. You are the curse.
There's been a couple of occasions where I've had to say, "Oh, sorry, I can't make it," and something really exciting usually happens then.
They're just lying to you, Karen.
I hope so.
That video showed you the cuddly otter going across the screen.
Yes, I suppose we're being a bit noisy, aren't we, for attracting anything too nice, but...
It should be okay. I mean, they tend to, when they move, along here particularly, they tend to just fly. It's a bit of a commuter route, really. Yeah, so hopefully... I mean, what you're doing doesn't distress... I mean, I suppose there's a level of stress, but... It's quite a quick and an efficient process. That's what you train to do, really, is to extract the bird and get it out as quickly as possible, and they tend to go back to doing what they're doing. I was out catching swallows on the weekend for part of a long-term project, and it sort of
there you go. But it escaped. And there was Richard running off after it, I think in anticipation he could catch a flying bird. Okay. So it went into the net, but it managed to just
Yeah.
duck underneath there.
It's the grey wagtail doesn't fly particularly fast, so when it hits the net, it kind of has an opportunity to, before it gets pocketed, to go into reverse. And
so close.
Yeah, sometimes they're
Well.
sometimes they're quite silly and sort of land on the rock and fly back through it and then get caught. But that one took a few seconds to go. Oh look, there's a net by there.
Yeah. Yeah, because you really, actually, looking at the net, looking across the river, you wouldn't pick it out very easily.
No.
But I guess if you're a bird and you've just flown into it, you've kind of worked out.
Yeah, and they've got much better eyesight than us, so they are quite clever.
Oh,
Clever girl.
oh no! Is it? Do you think it's the same one?
Yeah.
I know where that is now.
You see, that is really, that's planning, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people do think that ringing is sort of like this. You put a net up and you guarantee birds and all these rare things end up in it, but a lot of the time, especially for ringing like this, it can just be a case of sitting and waiting and watching things avoid your net and fly over it or around it.
So you leap up in very enthusiastically because you want to get them out of the net as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I mean, dippers, they're sort of aquatic birds, so they're fine if they go under the water, but obviously you don't want they're in a net, so you need to get them out as quickly as possible. But particularly things like grey wagtails and anything else that's non-dipper, basically, it's in danger of getting quite wet. So get them out as quickly as possible.
Okay. So tell us about some of the weird and wonderful kit you've got going on here then.
We've got the basics out here, so we've got a pair of special ringing pliers. So these have got little different size holes along them, in this case sort of 5 different holes for different size rings we use. Right. It's another set you get which has got even bigger holes. Then we have a solar spring balance, a wing rule, my notebook, and the reason we're here in a way, a tub of rings. So these are all different sizes for different size birds. So these ones here are these tiny little ones are for things like long-tailed tits, up to sort of this size here, which is for birds like the blackcap and dipper. Okay. And we've got even bigger ones, which I can show you.
Presumably for your herons and your ducks
for swan rings and eagles. And not we do any eagles, but some of these obviously much bigger rings here.
Oh gosh,
so about 20 times the size for swans. These are actually also got the sort of size you put on a golden eagle as well, so a big size ring.
Oh, so when Karis is not here and you catch
when we catch the osprey that's fishing down the river, but only when Karis is here.
And so if somebody was to find a bird, say a dead bird with a ring on it, what would they do? What should they do?
Ideally there's an address on there, and you can if you can take the ring off and put it on the put it in the post to the British Terrestrial Ornithology, or go on their website, and there is a on the BTO's website there is a form to fill in that allows you to submit all the details.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant.
I think I heard a dipper a minute ago, or a second. Chirping down the bottom.
So I hear you do a dipper impression. Is that an audio one? Could be possible.
Sadly, it's completely visual.
So disappointing. I'm collecting
bad impressions of birds.
Have you been doing bad impressions of birds, Gareth?
I used to do a blanket on the podcast the other day. The word buzzard is one that just won't stay in my head. So instead of saying buzzard, I did an impression of a buzzard. And Graham, one of my volunteers, said, "Oh, you mean a buzzard?"
It was a very good idea.
Thanks, Graham.
Well, you got it right.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, so we've been sat here for some time now, haven't we, Richard? And it would appear that we're kind of now facing probably some of the slightly less convenient conditions as far as bird ringing is concerned. Because would you like to explain them to us?
Yeah, well, the wind's picked up a bit, so the net's billowing, which means the pockets are open, so anything that flies in is likely to fly back out again. And the sun, although it's a fantastically lovely morning, sun's on the leaves of the trees and on the river, it's also on the net, so combination of a fairly good breeze and a nice lit up net is not what we want really.
No. So this is kind of, not so great conditions, even though it seems like perfect conditions to
Yeah.
me at the moment.
Oh, it's lovely to sit here.
Yeah.
But in terms of catching, we can still catch. We have caught when it's like this, but it's not too disastrous. But it does stack the odds against us a little bit more.
Of course.
But then the major showstopper at the moment is the lack of dippers.
Well,
So,
yes,
yeah.
we actually haven't seen anything apart from the grey wagtail that nearly came into the net. Yes. Well, I think it's you have to have patience with this kind of thing, don't you?
Yeah, when you're doing sort of single species surveys and catch like this, you do. It's a bit like fishing, really. Sometimes you just have to accept that you cast your line off, as it were, and if you catch, you catch. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
It's a good excuse to come back another day.
I was going to say, how many times a month do you have to do this?
We do it sort of, well, I try and do it sort of once a month.
Yeah.
I move up and down the reserve to try and get an idea of the distribution and territories of the pairs.
Yeah.
But I think it's only the second time we've done it this year because of weather and various things.
Yes. No, it's not been conducive weather for anything really.
No,
it's been too cold and too wet, and
river's been too high and things like that. So
yeah. Oh God, yes. I suppose getting across the river
Yeah.
with the nets is probably really dependent on.
yeah.
on
Although I'm on
water.
overkill today with chest high waders and 2 inches of water.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say, I had the watercross in my sandals. It wouldn't have been a big problem.
it was the choice of grab convenient chest waders or go searching for my wellies in the garage.
Yeah. And now, of course, I noticed myself kind of twitching because you kind of think, oh, well, what was that moving off on? And it turns out it was a bottle. Or,
yeah, every little movement you start reacting to. So I thought I heard one calling earlier upstream, but
no,
which is usually a prelude to them coming down, but nothing.
No. Did just hear a green woodpecker though.
Yeah.
A minute ago. That was nice. I always hear them, never see them.
Yeah, it's quite a good number of birds here, so you're never really bored of being here, or never feel like you've wasted your time coming here.
No, it's lovely, isn't it?
In fact, sometimes the net gets in the way. You can't enjoy yourself too much.
Can't relax.
No.
Well, it's annoying, isn't it? Because I can see there's lots of mayflies and midges on the river, and so there's plenty of food around for people.
It's a good food resource there for them, and we usually do see them around here, but sort of up to that little stream to our left. But they just don't seem to be around at the moment.
Yeah. So what do dippers mainly feed on then?
They're sort of aquatic invertebrates, caddisflies and the likes of that. They sort of glean from under rocks, under the water. So they're fantastic, like James Bond of birds. They fly, they can dive, they can swim, they can do everything really.
Birds.
Yeah, really strong. For their size, they just seem to be packing quite a punch.
Yeah. And does anybody understand why they dip?
It's various theories. Sort of a predator response. Sort of. It's almost like a bit of an alarm call. Sort of like, hey, here I am. But by just doing it all the time, they're sort of signalling to any would-be predator. Other people say it's to do with sort of camouflage. That's almost like echoing the ripples of the waters, and so I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Oh, I thought it was a dipper. Bits of dog.
So if somebody else was crazy enough to want to spend their mornings set by rivers, wading through
several inches
streams,
of water.
how would they go about it? What would be the thing that they would do?
They need to log on to the British Terrestrial Ornithology's website and look up a trainer in their local area.
Right.
And then contact that trainer, and hopefully if they've got room, they'll be able to take them on and take them out. And then depending sort of what level you want to get to, you serve an apprenticeship for a couple of years. Yeah. And after that, then the world's almost your oyster.
I mean, it's important bit of research, and for anybody who's sort of into ecology of any kind, really, it's a very useful extra string to your bow, I suppose.
Yes, it does take a lot of commitment to learn to ring because of the time frame involved, and you do get a lot of, as I'm a trainer myself, and I get a lot of people that do contact me, and as soon as you point out the lots of early mornings and what you expect, suddenly you never hear from them again. So there's a lot of people have this romantic image of it. Almost until they realise that you will in the morning you will be getting up at sort of 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and going out and it's not just turning up and getting to ring birds, you've got to be there to help put nets up, and if it's a site where you've got to have rides cutting vegetation, then you'll be expected to turn up during the winter and things to clear those, and so there's a lot more to it. Any idiot can put a ring on a bird, because I do it. So, but it's all the other skills that go with it that take the time to learn.
Oh, brilliant! Well, thank you very much, Richard.
No problem.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Catching something in the next half an hour or so. And it's because nature has a fantastic sense of irony that shortly after I left, I received a text from Gareth and Richard confirming that they had just caught a dipper in the nets and were able to weigh it and measure it and everything. They also said they caught a great bustard, but I'm somewhat doubtful of that. But if you're interested in getting involved in this fantastic citizen science work, which is so important to both our birds, but also beyond that, to our wider environment, to inform us how the environment is changing and how what we're doing to our planet is having an impact on our native species, then do visit www.bto.org and find out a little more about becoming a bird ringer yourself. Thank you.